Well, back when they asked us to do the first show, back 11 years ago, we said that we would do the show as long as you don't edit our faith. And they came back and said, well, it's your show, you can share it. And so they've given us the ability to really use the show to include a lot of Bible principles that we live by. And really, that's the foundation for our lives. And that's what we want to encourage people, is that Bible principles work. And as each family turns their heart towards God, that they can set their family on a firm foundation.
Hey besties, it's Katie from Without a Crystal Ball. Welcome back to my channel. It's been a minute since we've talked about the Duggars, and I'm only doing this video because Josh Duggar is trying to get out of prison, and we should talk about what he just filed in court about 3 weeks ago and what the judge ruled on his case. Because Josh Duggar has been locked up since he was convicted, and his sentence, which placed him in Seagoville, which is in Texas. He was sent to Seagoville back July of 2022. So he has been there for almost 3 years. And after 3 years, one would have assumed that Josh might have spent some time to reflect on what he has done and perhaps maybe take a level of accountability because of the overwhelming evidence that was against him and all of the forensic and information and data that proved what he had done. But it would appear that after 3 years of spending time locked up, Josh Duggar still does not have any remorse and is proclaiming his innocence. Now, there's two interesting factors here. Is one, Josh Duggar has told a court that he doesn't have money for an attorney, which I find fascinating because Jim Bob, his father, just bought a home and paid $1 million. And I think the house might be for Anna, honestly. I talked to someone who is in the know and they think that Anna might be moving into that house. But again, don't quote me on that. I don't know. But he told the court, the federal judge, that he doesn't have money for an attorney. And he is trying to do a writ of habeas corpus, which is a motion to vacate his sentence, and it's due in 4 days. And so he says the case involved complex constitutional and evidentiary issues, particularly relating to legal rulings and strategic decisions made during trial proceedings, errors in the admission of forensic evidence, and potential Brady violations. These issues may be relevant for a collateral attack and require skilled legal counsel to thoroughly review and evaluate all potential grounds for relief. Josh, in his appeal, already brought up issues around trial proceedings and decisions because he didn't call Caleb Williams. And that was because they couldn't bring up Caleb Williams' background as a SO. And he has already brought up errors in the forensic evidence because he tried to tell the court that someone remoted into his computer and watched stuff through his computer through a thumb drive, which is ridiculous. And then the Brady violations, that all had to do with the search of his property, which got them the evidence. So really, he doesn't have anything new, nothing new. And it says the defendant's trial lasted several days and resulted in a conviction on serious charges following a contested evidentiary record. Yes, the trial did last, I think it was 8 or 9 days. It wasn't a super long trial. And there definitely was a fight over evidence, but the case against him was so strong that they didn't have much to go on. He says, given the broad publicity of this case, the legal and factual issues involved have been subject to intense scrutiny, further underscoring the importance of a full and fair post-conviction review. Okay. To be fair, his dad did everything he could to cover this up and deny, and deflect. And I don't think the legal or there's nothing in the publicity that would have changed the outcome here. This was a jury that came back very quickly. I think they went into deliberations late one evening. They didn't have a ruling yet, or they didn't have a verdict yet. And then the next morning they came back and there was a verdict. It was very fast. He says, as time has unfolded, new legal theories and strategies have emerged in public discourse that may be relevant to the defendant's case. In light of these developments, the defendant seeks to consult with counsel to fully evaluate the potential of these emerging strategies and how they may support a motion for relief under 28 USC 2255, which is a writ of habeas corpus. The defendant is incarcerated and lacks the resources and legal training necessary to adequately investigate potential grounds for relief. Given the complexities of the issues and the volume of the trial records and the interests of justice require the appointment of counsel, and the defendant requests counsel for the limited purpose of reviewing the record, evaluating the possible constitutional claims, and if meritorious grounds exist, preparing and filing a 2255. So he wanted them to appoint him a counsel to help him look into theories and strategies and discourse and developments. He really didn't have anything new to offer, but I thought it was, again, interesting that it would appear that his attorney, Justin Gelfand, was and is no longer representing him. And it would also appear that Jim Bob is not willing to pay for him to have an attorney at this point. So, I mean, maybe that's a good thing, I guess. I don't know. And obviously Anna doesn't have the money to pay for an attorney. They don't have money. He hasn't worked in years. Years. So, he wants to get out of jail. He wants new theories. He wants an attorney. Well, obviously, this request to the judge didn't really move them, didn't really sway them. And just like a couple weeks ago, an order came down from the court which said a district court has discretion to appoint counsel for financially eligible persons who are seeking relief under 2241, 2254, or 2255. There is no general right to counsel in post conviction habeas proceedings for criminal defendants. There is no general right. Before appointing counsel, a district court must first determine whether the petition has presented a non frivolous claim. Even if there was a non frivolous claim presented in a habeas petition, a district court should still consider several factors to determine if appointing counsel is appropriate, including the legal complexity of the case and the factual complexity of the case and the petitioner's ability to investigate the present and present his claims. Defendant has not yet filed a habeas petition, and his motion to appoint counsel says only that as time has unfolded, new legal theories and strategies have emerged in public discourse that may be relevant to the defendant's case. And he seeks counsel to evaluate the potential of these emergent strategies and how they may support a motion for relief. Unfortunately, the motion does not illuminate what claims, emergent or otherwise, that he wishes to raise in the habeas proceedings, and thus the undersigned cannot determine in advance whether the defendant has any non frivolous issues to raise, or whether other factors, such as the complexity of his case, warrant appointment of counsel. Courts in the Eighth Circuit routinely deny motions to appoint counsel that are filed prior to a habeas petition. For those reasons, the defendant's motion to appoint counsel is denied. And then he was told that there's a deadline for the habeas corpus. So he is not going to get an attorney to help him evaluate the blase, blank, and rather, I don't know, frivolous claims. My opinion here is that Josh doesn't have anything here whatsoever. He has no grounds for habeas corpus. So the habeas corpus is basically like the last step in post conviction, like appeals and the process of can I get out of prison now? But this part of it is pretty hard to have any success. The common grounds for habeas corpus would be ineffective assistance of counsel. So that, he'd have to claim that like Justin Gelfand was a complete doofus and unable to help him, or he would have to present newly discovered evidence, which he clearly has none. He would have to prove or argue prosecutorial misconduct, which didn't happen, that there was a lack of jurisdiction, which isn't what happened here, that he might have been mentally incompetent during trial, which is clearly not true. He could argue that he's being unlawfully detained, but again, that's not true. There was no jury misconduct. He's not actually innocent at all, or that there was some sort of constitutional violation. during the trial or after. And that's why he brought up the Brady's violations. But the focus for this is generally at a federal level on constitutional rights that were violated. And they tried to do this with his appeal, and the appeals court did not buy it. They didn't buy that he was, about the Miranda. They didn't buy it about him being detained and not able to leave or free to leave, that he should never have been questioned. I mean, he's on audio effectively confessing to what he's done and telling them what they might find on his computers. It's wild. So, Josh is not going to get out until 2032. He still has 7+ years that he's supposed to be behind bars. And Josh is not obviously using this time to recover or reform himself. And I recall when he was initially sentenced, the prosecutor or the US attorney in the case said that the likelihood that Josh would ever receive help or be willing to receive help was slim to none, and that Josh was unlikely to ever have remorse or show remorse because he was incapable. Josh has never been diagnosed with any mental illnesses, but I would say he's a classic narcissist. But I would also say he's got a predator. I mean, they just said that he's attracted to children. It's just that's what it is. And there's no cure for that. And he doesn't want to cure it. He doesn't want to even acknowledge it or admit it. He has a long history of this. He did things to his sisters, and then as an adult looked at content and downloaded it, and awful stuff, obviously. And if he's unwilling to accept responsibility and show remorse, he will never take accountability for what he's done. And part of the federal system is that you're supposed to reform yourself. And when they were trying to get him sentenced years ago, they wanted him sentenced for 20 years because of how dangerous he is and how unlikely he is to ever change his behavior. And they once he gets out in 2032, and he'll be in his 40s by then, even by then, Josh will still be on supervised released for another 20+ years because the judge only sentenced him to 12.5 years. So Josh is just never going to get out. But I also wanted to address something else that's been going around, and that was that people keep sending me messages about Anna Duggar and whether or not she is filed for divorce. And the answer is no, she is not filed for divorce. Anna Duggar, there are no petitions for divorce by Anna. There's no, I mean, as far as I know, and from people I've talked to, Anna's a lost cause. Like, she's not going to leave Josh. She's not going to divorce him. She is still involved with the same people that she was involved with before. She might wear pants now. And maybe Jim Bob bought her a house to bribe her to stay, but there's no way she's not going to leave unless she literally wakes up one day and realizes that she's been brainwashed. She has not filed for divorce, and no one that I've spoken to believes that she will leave Josh. So, if the continued rumors go on, I would just say tell yourself no. Anna still has next to no relationship with anyone in the family. She has still been very much separated herself from all of his siblings, still blames the siblings, still blames the sisters, still acts like Josh is innocent, still believes that her husband is a godly, diligent man that's been wrongfully convicted. And she just lives in that sphere of denial. And, I think it was like last year, I told you she still has a ton of communication with him, and he has a lot of control over her, even from prison. So, no, they have not divorced. And Josh will not be getting out of prison and not be allowed a counsel. But I guess the silver lining here is that there is currently no one paying for him to have an attorney, which means Jim Bob doesn't have the cash to pay for that, or he just doesn't want to, or he's stopped trying to care about Josh. I don't know. I don't know. But Jim Bob is no longer bankrolling his son at this point. So, what are your thoughts? Let me know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up. Make sure to subscribe to my channel if you haven't subscribed, and click the bell so you never miss a video. Thanks so much for watching. Bye, guys.